Balaji sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Guest join பண்ணிட்டாங்களா sir?
ஜாயின் பண்ணி கம்ப்ளீட் பண்ணியிருக்கேன் போது.
Sir.
மேம் ஜாயின் பண்ணிட்டார் மேம் ஜாயின் பண்ணிட்டாரு.
மேம் ஸ்டார்ட் பண்ணலாமா மேம்?
தோஸ் எஸ் ஒன் செகண்ட். Ma'am, you can, ma'am, you can for introduction, ma'am, you can introduce the.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Yes. Good afternoon to all. I welcome you all for session 14 at AICTE sponsored FTP on global warming and impacts of power electronics towards green technology. I welcome our speaker for session 14 titled COVID-19, the global pandemic, Dr. A.R. Kadiravan, MBBS, DA, MD, General Medicine. He is a senior assistant professor at Department of Medicine, Government Stanley Medical College, Chennai. Dr. A.R. Kadiravan has completed his MBBS at Chengalpattu Medical College from 2000 to 2006. Then he completed his diploma in anesthesiology at Madras Medical College from 2007 to 2009. He has completed his MD General Medicine at Government Kilpak Medical College. He is having so much interest in teaching. So currently he is working as Senior Assistant Professor at Government Stanley Medical College. His interest is making awareness among young generations about our origins and about the importance of knowledge among others. Thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation. We request you to give your speech, sir. Thank you so much for joining with us, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Sir, I have shared the screen.
Yeah, okay, madam. So good afternoon to everybody. I welcome you all for this expert session. First of all, I thank Dr. Malati Anbaragan, who is an assistant professor in EEE Department, SRM Valliyamma Engineering College, for giving me this opportunity. She has told me about this seminar expert talk with a topic related to global warming. But I thought that more than global warming, a talk related to COVID-19 will be more relevant to the current situation. So I'm working as an assistant professor in medicine at Stanley Medical College. We have been seeing COVID patients day in and day out for the past 14 to 15 months. Okay, I'll go on to the topic. Next slide. So these are the facts that are known to you, COVID-19 facts. So COVID is caused by a novel coronavirus, which is a SARS-CoV-2. We call this virus as SARS-CoV-2, we have something called as SARS-CoV-1, which caused SARS epidemic of 2002 to 4 that was more prevalent in China. So this COVID-19 infection was first reported in Wuhan district, China in December 2019. You'll be remembering all these videos that were getting telecasted in the, December 2019. So we thought that we are so safe at that time. So we got our first case 1 month later on 30th Jan 2020. So we had a great first wave. The first wave got settled down by October or November 2020, and at present we are experiencing the second wave starting from March 2021. Different states of India are experiencing the second wave in a different manner. At present, Tamil Nadu is in the declining phase of second wave. We think that we will be coming back to normal by June 3rd or 4th week from the second wave. So the vaccination program that is for COVID-19 started worldwide in the October month, and in India it was started in 16th January 2021. We have 2 vaccines available in India against COVID virus. One is Covishield and Covaxin, and the third one, which has been marketed, which has entered into the market in the next week, which is planned to enter into the market in the next week, that is Sputnik. The virus is basically based on Russia. Next slide. So this is the statistics, global statistic as well as India-wide statistics. It was taken 2 days ago. So globally, we have nearly 16 crore 70 lakh cases, confirmed cases, and we have around 34 lakh deaths right from the first case. In India, we have 2 crore 69 lakh confirmed cases, and we have 3 lakh and 7,000 confirmed deaths. This is the number of confirmed cases. The real number would have been much higher than this number of confirmed cases. Such is the magnitude of this disease. Next slide. So this is a statistic of COVID vaccination worldwide as well as India-wide. Worldwide, we have given first dose for around 9.9% of the total population, and only 5% of the total world population has been given the complete vaccination. And for India, 13% of the Indian population, eligible population, is given first dose, and only 3.6% of the eligible population has been completely vaccinated. We have a long way in covering this vaccine. Next slide. So you'd have been hearing a lot of information regarding this COVID for the past 1 year. It is almost prevalent in all media, all social media for all these days. You have been hearing a lot about remdesivir, tocilizumab, white fungus, black fungus, yellow fungus, all these things. But what I feel is that the relevant information that has to be transferred to the common man in handling this pandemic has trickled down. This is my thought. So I'm going to limit myself with those relevant information alone. These are the topics I'm going to talk about. So how you should identify the COVID infection, first thing. And second thing, when to seek your hospital care if you are COVID positive. Third thing, this is the most important thing, how to prevent the COVID infection as a whole. And fourth thing, what to expect from vaccinations, since vaccines are available now. And importantly, fifth thing, there are so many myths surrounding the COVID infection as well as COVID vaccination. What are the myths and what are the facts in it? The next slide. So this is an important slide. How should you identify the infection first? So we have a lot of symptom constellation in this COVID-19 infection, especially in the second wave of COVID-19. We have a more generalized presentation compared to the first wave. So these are the main symptoms. Patient will be having cough, shortness of breath. They will say that they are catching their breath holding is very poor. They will have difficulty in breathing, fever or mild chills, even muscle or body aches is a relevant symptom. Vomiting is an important symptom that is not present in the first wave. Vomiting or diarrhea, it's an important symptom that is not present in the first wave, but present in the second wave. And new loss of taste or smell. So from the date of exposure, suspected date of exposure, you can get this symptom between 2 days and 2 weeks. That is the incubation period. And these symptoms will be present for a period of 5 to 7 days. So next slide. So this is a slide that classifies the symptom into dangerous, most common and less common. Very dangerous symptoms are shortness of breath, difficulty in breathing, loss of speech or mobility or confusion, and chest pain. Common symptoms: fever, cough, tiredness, loss of taste and smell. And less common symptoms: sore throat, headache, aches and pains, diarrhea, rash, which we are seeing very rarely, but red or irritated eyes. Conjunctivitis is another common presentation of this second wave of COVID-19. So just remember about this slide. So next slide. So what should you do if you have these symptoms? So first thing that is necessary is that even if you have minor symptoms, remember the first day of symptom. So you may be having a mild body ache, mild cough, mild fever. That remember the first day of symptom, and right from the first day, try to isolate yourself in your home itself. Okay. So this isolation must be continued till you recover. Recovery is some 2 weeks from the first day of symptom. Okay. So first thing is identifying the first day of symptom and isolating yourself in your home. Then second thing, consult your doctor as soon as possible if you are having these symptoms, and give a throat swab as soon as possible, because this throat swab will be positive even on the first day of symptom, but it will become negative within 5 days of onset of symptom. Within 5 days of onset, our body is able to clear the virus from the pharynx. Throat swab is taken either in the nasal cavity, nose, or in the pharynx region, throat. Within 5 days, the virus will settle down inside the lungs. It won't get detected in the throat. That's why most of the patients are getting swab negative, but they are having lesions. They are having symptoms or lesions in the CT. So as soon as you get the first symptom, give a throat swab. This is important. And third thing is, you just maintain a diary, a symptom diary, which should include all these things. What is your date of onset of first symptom? Whether it is simple myalgia, simple body pain, mild fever, something like that. You should maintain a symptom diary that includes the date of symptom onset, daily temperature. You should measure your temperature using any thermometer, either it is mercury or digital thermometer, at least 3 times a day in a fixed time, morning once, afternoon once, and evening once. You measure the temperature and maintain it in a diary. And oxygen saturation. So you should have something called as pulse oximeter, which is very, very essential in preventing the critical illness in this COVID-19 infection. And you should measure the pulse oximeter, measure the oxygen saturation using pulse oximeter in morning, afternoon, night, 3 times. And we have something called a 6-minute walk test. I will tell it in the next slide. But if you are having fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing, this constellation of symptoms, seek medical attention immediately. The fever, cough, and difficulty in breathing is a dangerous sign. If you have difficulty in breathing, then it is an important sign that you must be there in the hospital immediately. Next slide. Madam, can you please check that whether this video is playing? This is a video.
No, sir.
Okay, no problem. Let's move on to next slide. Next slide, please. I will tell you how to use a pulse oximeter. So the pulse oximeter is an equipment that is able to measure the oxygen saturation in your blood. How much your blood is saturated with oxygen. That is what we are measuring with pulse oximeter. So previous slide. Yeah. So what we have to do is that you should insert the pulse oximeter in either your index finger or middle finger. The pictorial representation given in this is wrong. You should not have any nail polish in your fingers, because it will interfere with your pulse oximeter reading. Okay. So you should insert it in your index finger or middle finger. You should keep the pulse oximeter steady in your finger at least for 30 seconds. Okay. Your hands must be kept at the level of your heart, kept on a table, something like that. And you should not be leaving your hand in the air. So the pulse oximeter is kept there for at least 30 seconds. Next slide. So these are the readings that comes in the pulse oximeter. What we have here, that is SpO2, that measurement is, that is the pulse, that is the saturation it should be about 96 or 97. Okay, we have two readings there, SpO2 and pulse rate. On the left side is saturation, which should be above 96, and right side is pulse rate, which should be anywhere.
நீ ஏன் சாப்பிட்டு வா, மேல போயிட்டு நான் இந்த லேப்டாப்ல ஓபன் பண்ணிக்கிறேன், அப்புறமா உனக்கு இதுல போட்டு தரேன்.
Sorry for interruption. Sorry for disturbance.
Yeah, which should be anywhere between 75 to 100. The pulse rate should be anywhere between 75 and 100. That is normal. Okay. And in the pulse oximeter, below the readings, we have something called as we are seeing something as a waveform. So ensure that before measuring your pulse oxygen saturation, ensure that there is a proper waveform below this. Without that waveform, whatever number you are getting is a wrong number. So most of the people gets confused if they get some number as 75, 84 when you just insert the pulse oximeter in your finger. No, that is not your oxygen saturation. Okay, you should get a proper waveform below those two numbers. If this waveform should be proper and regular, then measure what is the saturation there and note it down. Okay, that is your oxygen saturation. You should keep this instrument in your finger for at least 30 to 45 seconds. Next slide. So there is something called as a 6-minute walk test that is essential for a person who is getting quarantined, who is getting isolated in his home. What is 6-minute walk test? So what should you do is that you should measure your oxygen saturation at rest. Note it down in your diary. Okay, then remove your pulse oximeter and make a short walk for 6 to 7 minutes in your home itself at normal speed. Okay, then measure your saturation after the walk, immediately after the walk. A fall in saturation from the initial value for more than 6%. See whether the first value is 98. If the value that comes after the 6-minute walk test is 92, 93, then it is significant. If the first value is 96, a fall in saturation up to 90 is significant. So a fall in saturation of more than 6% from the initial value is significant. If you have fall in saturation of more than 6%, then it indicates that your oxygen carrying capacity is very poor. It is time to get admitted in the hospital. It is time to seek a hospital care. Okay, this is an important red flag sign. So next slide. So up to this, we have a very short constellation of signs and symptoms. On all these symptoms are somewhat non-specific. Most of the patients are able to identify the symptom in the earlier days itself. Then why most of the patients are landing up in critical care ICU, even they are identifying the symptoms, is this thing. These are the things what people are missing. First thing is that most of the people refuse to believe that they are vulnerable. They think that this disease only affects the elderly age group. No, that is wrong. This is affecting people of all age group. They think that with proper exercise, when they are maintaining proper diet and proper exercise, they will be immune to this infection. No, that is wrong. Even with proper exercise and proper diet, we see most of the people getting this infection. Okay, and most of the people think that they haven't left their home when lockdown was announced. So since they haven't left their home, there are no chances of them getting the infection. No, that is also wrong. This infection somehow gets into our home through some third person or so, some vegetable vendor, milk vendor, somebody. If he is infected, he can transmit the infection to the person even they are in home. So refusing to believe that they are vulnerable is the first problem. Second thing is hoping that traditional preventive measures like pepper, some homemade kashayams, some kabasura kudineer, all these things. Yeah, government is endorsing these things, but please believe that these are not preventing the disease. Even with traditional preventive measures, they are able to reduce your symptoms. Yeah, I accept that, but we are getting infection even after following these preventive measures. Don't go by false beliefs. Okay, that is the second thing. Third thing, most of the patients, they dismiss the minor symptoms at the beginning. Okay, what patient used to tell us is that we are having a fever for half a day. Later on, the fever got settled by itself. We don't have any symptoms after that. But that is the first day of symptom. Those minor symptoms must be taken into account. Mostly these symptoms will happen for a half a day or 1 or 2 days. That's all. That patient will settle down. People think that only with the difficulty in breathing, some severe cough, difficulty in breathing, they may be having COVID. No. These minor symptoms must be given proper importance. And there is something called as phasic illness of the disease. This disease occurs in phases. Next slide. So people doesn't understand about this phasic illness of the disease. Next slide, madam. Yeah. So this is an important slide. I will just try to explain this slide. The x-axis is time course and y-axis is the severity of the disease. Okay. So right from day 1 to day 5, we have something called as incubation period. This can extend from day 1 to day 14. Averagely up to day 5. Patient won't be having any symptoms at all. They would have got exposed to somewhere. Sorry. And virus is getting multiplied slowly in their body. Right from day 5 to day 11, it is the first phase, symptomatic phase. This is the phase usually patient identifies their symptoms, minor symptoms only. This is the phase in which the virus is replicating actively in your body. Patient may be having minor fever, body pain, myalgia, all those symptom constellation that I have been discussing. It will settle down within 3 days, 2 to 3 days. Please note it down. This in the symptomatic phase, for the first 2 to 3 days, patient will be having symptoms, but it will settle down. So from day 1 to day 6, 5 to 11 is 6 days. Yeah, day 1 to day 6, patient will be in the symptomatic phase, and usually by day 6 they will be settling down. Then from day 11 to day 14, which is from the symptom of onset, day 7 to day 10, that is an important critical phase in which our immune system starts acting against the virus. For every foreign pathogen that enters into our body, our immune system has an effective response. But what happens in the COVID infection is that our immune system starts acting hyperreactively. Hyperreactive immune response is there. So from day 6 to day 10, our immune system gets kicked in ununiform. And this is the reason why patients are getting the difficulty in breathing, fall in saturation, all these symptoms in the second week, most probably after day 7. This is what patient is missing. What patient thinks is that with the earlier settlement of symptoms, they have come out of COVID. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to be careful in this day 11 to day 14. I have told something called symptom diary. You have to maintain everything in the symptom diary up to day 14, which means day 10 of illness. When properly interfered in this second phase, we can prevent the patient going on to the third phase, which is late pulmonary phase. In this late pulmonary phase, most of the patient ends up in the ventilator, and when we see most of the patients are dying. So the critical phase is the early pulmonary phase, which is effectively day 6 to day 10 from the onset of symptoms, because of delayed innate immunity and cytokine storm. That is the exact word given there. Cytokine storm starts acting only from day 6. Okay, so next slide. So the same thing, day 1 to day 6 is the first phase, which is the stage of mild symptom. Day 7 to day 10 is the mild lung problem. Mild hypoxia. Hypoxia means reduction in oxygen saturation, mild difficulty in breathing. All those things can happen. From day 11 onwards, patient usually enters into a severe illness from which there is no return usually. Some patients recovers, but most of the patient gets succumbed. So this second phase is the one with which we, when interfered in the second phase, we can effectively cut short the severity of the disease. We can bring so many patients back to normal. So next slide. So what should you do? You are having minor symptoms and you have identified yourself as COVID positive, and even if it is COVID negative, I have told something, because COVID positivity, swab positivity can happen only within the first 4 or 5 days. Even within COVID negativity, even if you are COVID negative, be in contact with your doctor once symptom arises, if it is mild. Okay, just follow whatever your doctor is saying, whatever he is advising you, follow his medication, and be note down your saturation, respiratory rate, everything. Please identify the red flag signs. These are the red flag signs which indicate that hospitalization need is there. If this red flag signs are present, you must reach the hospital. If high grade fever is there for more than 5 days, usually normally in patients we have low grade fever for first 2 to 3 days and it gets settled down. If the fever is of very high grade for more than 5 days, then this is an important red flag sign. Second thing is, this that initial low grade fever will be there. It will settle down for 2 to 3 days and it comes back again after 5th day, which indicates that cytokine storm has started. So initial fever, then an asymptomatic phase, then you start acting again low grade fever after 5th or 6th day, then that is a red flag sign. difficulty in breathing or abnormal effort in breathing is definite red flag sign whenever it happens, even in day 3 or day 4. Fall in saturation less than 95%. Please note that this saturation must be the value that you note after using the instrument for at least 30 to 45 seconds, not the immediate value that you note down. Okay. So fall in saturation less than 95%, and 6-minute walk test is positive. So I have told us fall in saturation after 6-minute walk for more than 6% is positive. All these things are red flag sign. When these red flag signs are present, you must immediately seek hospital care. Next slide. So this is regarding COVID illness. What happens when you become positive? So how will you prevent illness? This is the old saying. Desiderius Erasmus is a Dutch philosopher and Renaissance writer. He lived in the 14th or 15th century in Europe. This is his famous saying. Prevention is better than cure, which still applies. Okay, which is still the golden rule. Okay, how to prevent the illness? How doctors and healthcare workers who are moving with the patients day in and day out for past 14 to 16 months, most of them are able to prevent the illness. What they are doing differently, you must know that. Okay, next slide. So we have these 3 things as preventive measures. One is personal hygiene, second is mask, and third thing is vaccines. Vaccines right from this January. Okay, so I should stress the importance of personal hygiene and mask here, because I feel that the importance of these 2 things haven't been stressed enough in normal media. Yeah, we have been speaking about masks and personal hygiene right from the beginning, but the importance of it hasn't been stressed. Okay, so I'll talk about this in detail. Okay, next slide. What is personal hygiene? How are you able to maintain it? So yeah, you have been hearing this in every telephone call right from day one. You should maintain at least 3 feet distance or 1 meter distance between yourself and others. This is purely what to say impossible in a country like us. But whenever possible, keep this in mind. Whenever possible, you should maintain this distance. Okay, one thing. Second thing is, if your hands are visibly dirty, please wash them with soap and water after handling meat, after handling any dirty things. Please wash them with soap and water. If your hands are not visibly dirty, wash with any alcohol based hand rub. Keep a alcohol based hand rub always with you. Okay. Third point, avoid touching your eyes, nose and mouth. These 3 are the portals of entry for the virus into your body. Your eyes, your nose and mouth. Okay. Please don't take your hand anywhere near your face, because the chances of it clinging onto your fingers and entering into your body is very high. Okay. And next 2 things is personal hygiene measures. Cover your mouth and nose with your bent elbow or tissue whenever you cough or sneeze, and try to clean and disinfect surfaces frequently. But this is of lesser importance now. Now scientists are saying that this fomite, this is for fomite transfer. Any object that can transfer the infection from one person to another person, this fomite transfer is very less. Okay, but still, please adapt to this personal hygiene measures. Next slide. Same thing, wash your hands. When the hands are visibly dirty, wash your hands with soap and running water. When hands are not visibly dirty, frequently clean them using alcohol based hand rub. Okay, wash your hands always after coughing or sneezing. When caring for the sick, when you are having some positive patients in your home and when you are caring for them, whenever you go near them, immediately wash your hands. Before, during and after you prepare food, before eating, after toilet use, when hands are visibly dirty, when handling animals or animal waste. Those who are rearing any pets in your home, we don't have any evidence that this COVID virus can jump from pet to us, but still we have to be careful, because it is basically a zoonotic virus. It was there between bats in the forest and it acquired some capability so that it jumped from bat to pangolin to human. So we should not take any risk. Okay, so wash your hands after handling animals or animal waste. Next slide. So these are the 3 factors to help you make safer choices. This is guideline given by WHO. Okay, always open air spaces are safer than enclosed spaces. Okay, the chances of COVID virus getting spread from one person to another person is very high in a closed room without any proper cross ventilation than an open air space. Okay, please remember that. A closed room, even if 10 members, even if 15 members are there, the chances of you getting infection is very, very high. That's why what I see is that Most of the super spreader, see one source of infection, more persons are getting infected. What we call it a super spreader event. Most of the super spreader happens with marriage halls, restaurants, death rituals, all these things. People think that government has given guidelines that we can assemble a group of 20 or 30, not more than that. No, it doesn't work like that. A group of 1,000 people who are gathered in a big community hall carries the same risk as that of group of 15 or 20 who are gathered inside a home. Okay, it is not about the number of people, it's about the proximity. If you are able to gather the same 20 people in a community hall, that is different. You are not, chances of acquiring infection is very less there. But if 15 to 20 people gets what you say gets within a closed location, the chances of risk is very high. Second thing, proximity. Farther away from others, the chances of infection is very less, the same 1 meter distance. And third thing is time. Try to be in an enclosed room for a shorter period of time. If the time with more members is very, very high, if you are spending more time in a closed group, and if one person is there with a mild infection inside the room, chances of the infection spreading from him to others is very, very high. Okay, next slide. So avoid the 3 C's: closed space, crowded space, and close contact. Okay, please try to meet people outside. Okay, and avoid crowded or indoor settings. This is very difficult in office people, but if you can't do that, please take the adequate precaution. Don't use AC. Please open a window and provide for cross ventilation, and always wear a mask whenever you are near another person. Please think that you should wear a mask only with an infected person. No, it doesn't work like that. We don't know who is asymptomatically spreading the infection. Okay, he may be vaccinated, but he may be asymptomatically carrying the virus. So always wear a mask when you are there, when you want to be there in a crowded or indoor settings. Next slide. Now come the second prong in the preventive point, mask. Okay, we have two different types of mask. One is medical mask and one is non-medical or fabric mask. I'll explain this. In medical mask, the first one on the right side is 3-ply medical mask or surgical mask, and the second one, the below picture, is N95 mask. Non-medical mask is the routine cloth mask that I see people are using outside. Okay, who should use the medical mask and who should use the non-medical mask? Next slide. So medical masks are only for health workers, main thing. Second thing, one who has suspected symptoms, even on the first day of symptoms, please switch over to medical mask. One who is positive or one who has symptoms, given swab and is waiting for the reports, please use medical mask. One who is taking care of positive patients in their homes, use medical mask. Apart from this, people who are aged 60 plus and people with chronic health conditions like diabetes, obesity, cancer, respiratory problems, and any immunosuppressive states, renal transplant, anything, please use medical mask. For other persons, non-medical mask or fabric mask is enough. Next slide. Yeah, this is a video. Okay, next slide. Next slide, madam. Yeah. So regarding fabric mask, I must tell this. Most people think that a cloth mask, which is being sold in the shops, are protecting them from COVID infection. No. What WHO says as a fabric mask or non-medical mask is that it should contain 3 layers. Okay, the inner layer must be an absorbent fabric or a simple cotton, which should be hydrophilic. It should absorb the water droplets or saliva droplets that is coming out from your mouth. We should have a middle layer, spun-bound middle layer that will act as a filter, and we should have an outer layer that is a thick cloth, that usually polyester cloth, that will repel the droplets. Okay, so regarding the cloth mask, if you are planning to use cloth mask, which is non-medical mask, this non-medical mask must be of this quality, 3-layered non-medical mask. A single layered non-medical mask doesn't do any help at all. Okay, of course, a single layered non-medical mask is better than no mask at all. I accept with that, but for it to function as a proper filter, you should have a 3-layered medical mask. If you are a 3-layered non-medical cloth mask, if you are not able to get a 3-layered cloth mask, please switch on to a surgical mask, 3-ply mask that I have shown before. Regarding N95 mask, usually N95 mask is better than that of 3-ply mask. I accept that, but what I see is that people find it very, very difficult to breathe through N95 mask. Yes, you should have some sort of accommodation before using the N95 mask. You will be having the breathlessness. So people using N95 mask, at times they used to pull down their mask, take a fresh breath of air and then pull it up. No, it doesn't work like that. Instead of that, you can use a 3-ply mask. What I suggest is that please use 3-ply mask whenever you are going to planning to go outside, and use 2 masks, one above the other, 2 3-ply masks, 2 surgical masks when you are in a closed spaces, supermarkets, any shops, medical shops, something like that. When you are planning to visit there, use 2 3-ply masks. Okay. N95 mask, if you are able to breathe through it, if you are able to keep it in the position, and if you are able to take normal breath, then it's okay. If not, please don't use N95 mask. Okay, next slide. So these are important with mask. Masks should completely cover nose and mouth. We have 3 portals. One is eye, one is nose, and one is mouth. Okay. So mask should cover nose and mouth completely. The mask covering only mouth, mask at the chin, all those things are not useful. And I see persons adjusting their mask by catching hold on the outer surface of the mask. No, because there is no special repellent that are present on the outer surface of mask that repels your virus. The virus is present on the outer surface of mask. It just gets attached. It just get attracted to there. It will be there for some time. And if you touch the outer surface of mask, the virus will cling on to your fingers, and you can, if you take the fingers anywhere near your mouth or nose, you will get the infection. So you should not touch the outer surface of mask. Equal care must be taken in disposing the mask after use. Don't share your mask with others. Next slide. This one. Regarding N95 mask, I see some person using a mask with a valve on the exterior surface. It is not at all recommended, because if you are carrying a virus unknowingly, asymptomatic, if you are carrying a virus, if you are using a mask with valve, this valve will just transmit the virus from you to everybody around you. Okay, so mask with valve is not at all recommended. Disposable masks should not be reused. That is, our 3-ply mask should not be reused. Fabric mask, what I have mentioned, with 3-layered fabric mask can be washed daily and used. Masks are a must in friends meeting, family gatherings, any casual talks, even with neighbors at home or with other apartments surrounding you. During visit to nearby shop, always remember that you should wear a mask. This is a pessimistic view. Think of everyone around you as COVID positive. This is more pessimistic, but I knowingly admit this, because this is better than searching for bed in a crisis situation. Okay, just think that you have to save yourself from everyone around you. Everyone around you has COVID positive. Keep that in mind. Okay, next slide. So same thing, how to wear a non-medical fabric mask safely. Do not use a mask that looks damaged. Do not wear a loose mask. You should not be having a gap in this. I see people folding their ear band and keeping it something like that, but they will have gap here. So this gap should not be there. Do not wear the mask under the nose. Do not remove the mask when you want to speak with other people. Do not use a mask that is too tight. Even that is also a problem, because you will tend to remove it again, remove it on and off. Okay. Do not wear a dirty or wet mask. Do not share your mask with others. Next slide. Same thing. Next slide. So another important thing, should people wear mask while exercising during the COVID pandemic? What WHO recommends is that when you are doing any vigorous physical activity like running, something like that, you should not be wearing your mask, because 2 problems are there. One, you will be breathless very soon, because the mask is definitely an impediment to your breathing. And second thing is that the mask will get wet very easily. When it gets wet, the filtration coefficient of the mask gets very poor. It will attract easily the virus. But during mild to moderate exercise, our routine walking, which we are doing with our friends, during those exercises, please try to wear a mask. Or else, if you are not able to wear a mask, please do some exercise alone, not in groups. Do plan to go for a walk alone, where you don't have any neighbors surrounding you. Okay, the safety distance of 3 feet or 1 meter should be there even during exercising. Okay, in vigorous exercise, it is not recommended. Mild to moderate exercise, what I suggest is that please wear a 3-ply mask. Next slide. Please try to limit yourself as indoor exercises. Go to uncrowded gyms with good ventilation, not AC gyms. Even in there, please maintain the 1 meter distance. Frequently clean your hands while handling the surfaces or equipment, something like that. Try to switch from outdoor exercises to indoor exercise. It is not possible for most of the people, but please take adequate precautions while you are doing your routine exercises. Okay. For vigorous activity alone, mask is not recommended. Please use mask for mild to moderate activities. Next slide. So important part of my discussion. We are giving vaccines for our people right from 16 January 2021. Yeah, initially there was a great hesitancy in taking up the vaccine because of a lot of misinformation. Of course, our social media is a double-edged sword. Misinformation spreads very rapidly rather than information. So a lot of people are asking me these questions. So I'm not going to limit myself, but these are the vaccines available. Please go and vaccinate. Okay. This is the main thing, main tool now present with us to prevent the severe COVID infection. So why there are so many vaccines? This is the first question people are asking me. Vaccine should be one. Why so many vaccines are there in market? Why so many corporates are producing their own version of vaccines? What is the difference? Then why are vaccines important? Why should I get vaccinated? Third question. Yeah, this seems like a conspiracy. Usually vaccines will take around 4 to 5 years to come. How come people have produced vaccines so fast in this COVID situation? This is an important question. What are the available vaccines? Yeah, you know answer to this question. Are vaccines really safe? What are the problems with vaccines? And important question, why isn't vaccine 100% protective? Why doctors used to tell that even with vaccination, I should wear mask. Even with vaccination, I should maintain this proper personal distance. Why should I do that? And another one is, can vaccines cause COVID infection? I hear a lot of stories like that. Patient had gone for vaccination, he got vaccinated. Within 3 days, he died. Within 4 days, he got COVID infection, got admitted. Really, the vaccine that is available to us can cause infection? Okay, I will discuss these topics. Next slide. So why there are so many vaccines? Because we have so many types of vaccine. Vaccines are produced with various types by various corporate industries. Yeah, corporates are there. They are working to produce an effective vaccine by various methods. What are the different types of vaccines that we have? Why there are different types first? We have different different procedures to produce a vaccine. The first one is inactivated vaccine. So what it does is that the virus has been isolated from an infected patient. This virus has grown in a laboratory in artificial culture, and this virus is taken. It is killed by heat or using some chemicals, and this killed virus is then injected. It is converted into an injectable form as a solution. It is then injected into normal persons. Okay. This is inactivated or killed vaccine. The virus is completely killed. Okay. But our immune system, our body, it can't differentiate a live virus from a killed virus when injected. When the immune cells in our body, it comes into contact with this dead virus, it thinks that a virus has entered into your body. Let's mount an antibody response. That's how we are getting antibodies after injecting a killed vaccine. It is very, very safe for persons even with a very weak immune system. Okay, because the thing that is getting injected, it doesn't cause any infection at all. But the immunity is very short lasting. That's why we need booster doses. We need to supplement the original killed virus again after 1 month or 2 months. The important example for killed vaccine, inactivated vaccine, is Covaxin, what we use in India. Bharat Biotech is producing it, and the important vaccine worldwide is Sinovac or Sinopharm. It's an important killed vaccine in China. China has used it in their country, and they are exported it to many Latin American, African, and Arabian countries. Okay, this is inactivated vaccine. This is the procedure by which we are producing vaccines right from the time of Edward Jenner, when he first introduced the vaccination for smallpox. Even in our village site, this crude form of this vaccination is followed. Okay, this is killed vaccine, inactivated. Next slide. So second thing is viral vector vaccine. Please look at the picture. We have something called as genetic code. It is a coil-like structure in the middle, and we have something which is in the yellow color. We have something called envelope. that is in blue color, and we have something called a spike protein that is in pink color. This is the basic structure of virus. What we do in viral vector vaccine is that we will remove the DNA or RNA genetic material alone, and we will just insert the genetic material into a harmless virus. The genetic code of the deadly virus is removed, and it is inserted into a harmless virus, and this is converted into an injectable and injected into our body, just like a Trojan horse. We are we are injecting a deadly virus inside a deadly virus genetic material inside a harmless virus, and we are just introducing it into our body. What our body does is that it kills the harmless virus, and when the genetic code comes into contact with the immune cells, it produces antibody against the genetic code. But the genetic code can't produce a full virus, so we can't get infection from the genetic code. For the infection to happen, we need a full virus with envelope, spike, and genetic code. So patient will produce only antibodies after getting this vaccine. Okay, so the examples for this is Covishield, the another vaccine we are using from AstraZeneca, and Sputnik, the vaccine that is being brought into our Indian market right from June 1st week. Both this acts by the same way. So this is viral vector vaccine. Next slide. We have something called as a DNA or RNA vaccine, in which the coiled DNA or RNA is introduced directly inside our body without any harmless virus coat and all. We'll just take the genetic material, make it into an injectable form. We are inserting it into a normal person. Our immune system directly recognizes it, produces antibodies. But what is the problem with this is that this genetic material is highly fragile. Okay, so when converted into a vaccine form, this genetic material must be stored at a very, very, very low temperature of -40, -30 degrees centigrade. This is the vaccine. This is the form that is being used in the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine that is used in US and UK. They have extensive infrastructure to keep their vaccines at -40, -30 degrees centigrade. But it is not suitable for our countries at present. Okay, so this is another form. DNA RNA is directly injected into the body. Next slide. This is in in production now. We have something called as upcoming nasal vaccine, where our virus is taken. Its potency is reduced, attenuated, and it's then given in a oral form or nasal form. Okay, so this is live attenuated vaccine. It is a weakened virus, but it is live virus. What we are using in oral polio drops, what we are giving for our kids. An attenuated virus can't mount a proper infection. Okay, mostly a single dose is enough. It may give a lifetime protection of what we are using in OPV, but problem is that an attenuated virus can cause an infection in a person with a weakened immune system. Okay, so this is the contraindication for using this vaccine. This vaccine has not entered the market, but it is in production fray. Probably we will getting this vaccine by this October or November. The name given for this is Codagenics. It is produced by Indian Immunologicals Limited. Okay, so we have multiple ways by which vaccines can be produced. That's why we are having multiple types of vaccine. Okay, next slide. So why vaccines are important now? What will happen when you don't take vaccines? So consider the picture on the left. We have something called as measles virus. We are giving measles vaccine for all of our kids in the form of MMR vaccine by 18th month of birth. Okay, so when given measles vaccine, our body will produce antibody against the virus using the vaccine. The vaccine will kick on an antibody response. Those antibodies will be there inside our body. When the kid or adult encounters the measles virus again in his life, our body immediately recognizes it because it already has antibodies. It immediately recognizes the measles vaccine, goes and attaches to it. Measles virus goes and attaches to it and kills it. Same thing happens for flu. Same thing happens for chickenpox. But what's in this COVID-19 is that we don't have any antibody at all against new pathogen because it is fairly new to humans. It was there jumping between bats. Okay, so we need antibodies to act against this newer pathogen. These antibodies can be obtained only by two ways. One, previous infection. I should get infected with COVID-19. I should get recovered from that. And my body will produce enough antibodies. And if I again encounter a COVID virus in future, my body will act. That is one way. And second way, the same principle, but in the form of vaccination. These are the two ways by which you can produce specific antibodies. Okay. the same thing. What does vaccine will do? It will kick the production of antibodies. This antibodies will be there in our blood for some time and then it will disappear. But a storage form, a memory chip of this antibody will be there hiding in our immune system. And whenever we encounter the virus again, this memory chip will get activated again and our body will start producing antibodies against the virus. Okay. So vaccines are very important. Next slide. A vaccine protects an individual. Why should I vaccinate everyone? What is the need? Because we have a certain part of community for which we can't give vaccines now. Kids are not eligible vaccines at present. Pregnant people are not eligible for vaccine at present. Yeah, it may change in the future, but still now we don't have proper proper instruction to vaccinate them. We don't have any evidence to vaccinate them. Okay, so by vaccinating all those eligible people in the community, we are protecting our non-eligible but still vulnerable population. Our kids and pregnant women are non-eligible but still vulnerable population. Okay, we are getting COVID infection in kids also. We have seen deaths even in 20 plus age group in the last week. So it affects all age groups. So by vaccinating everyone, all eligible population, we are creating some sort of herd immunity so that even our unvaccinated are protected. Okay, this is our societal responsibility. Okay, next slide. Next slide. Yeah, this is an important question. Yeah, no, please, previous slide. Yeah, this is an important question. Yeah, it is logical. In earlier days, vaccines used to be ready for after some 5 to 6 years of disease. How come we are able to produce vaccines so fast? Because our technology has improved a lot when compared to earlier time. In earlier days, we will be seeing the infection. In earlier days, I mean before 1920s, let's say. After 1930, we had penicillin, we had improvement in general sanitation, and we didn't see any pandemic at all. Okay. Before that, what will happen? What has happened is that we will see infection, we will see patient dying of the disease in mass. To identify the cause of infection, it will take around 10 to 15 years. To identify this is the cause for infection, this is the structure which is infecting us. But what we have done with this COVID is that we have identified the cause within 2 weeks. We are able to delineate the infecting organism. We are able to delineate its structure within 2 weeks of onset of pandemic because of our improved science and technology. Second thing, we had Ebola pandemic. It is not pandemic actually, it's the epidemic. It happened in some African countries in China in 2010 or 2012. At that time, different countries are acting in a different manner, but they are still able to control that. But we learned lessons from that Ebola pandemic. So what all governmental organizations have decided is that they have to work in unison with respect to COVID vaccine. If one scientist in one governmental organization or one private organization is able to get a breakthrough, he must share it with others. This is how we are working for the past 14 months. Okay, so information sharing is there happening very fast compared to previous era. Third thing, this is the first global pandemic of our era. We had our last pandemic in 1920, Spanish flu, after which, after nearly 100 years, we are having a pandemic now. So funding is very powerful for this global pandemic. And fourth thing is that clinical trials, the vaccine, before it coming into community, it must pass through various stages, various clinical trials. This clinical trials usually will happen one after another. Next slide, please. So we have phase 1 clinical trial in which this vaccine is given for a select set of individuals, some hundreds alone. We will check what happens with them. Phase 2 from thousands of volunteers. Phase 3, 10,000 to 100,000 volunteers. And after phase 3, we will introduce the vaccine into the market. But in this epidemic, we had phase 1 trial running in a separate governmental organization or a separate corporate setup. At the same time, we had phase 2 trial, we had phase 3 trial. I'm not speaking about the ethical part. No, I'm not speaking about it, but this has happened. Phase 2 trial was running parallel to phase 1. Phase 3 was started. In fact, for Covaxin, we had phase 3 trial only after introducing the vaccine into the community. Okay. Covaxin was introduced in the first week of Jan. All healthcare workers are asked to take Covaxin, asked to take vaccine. We opted for Covaxin. We are participant of the phase 3 trial. Okay, nearly 25,000 people from the community are asked to participate in the phase 3 trial. So instead of these trials running in series, we had trials running parallel to one another so that an effective vaccine can be brought out very easily. Okay, all these trials are done on healthy volunteers. Okay. Next slide. So coming to the what are the vaccines available? We have two vaccines at present with us. One is Covishield, one is Covaxin. Covishield is produced by Serum Institute of India with collaboration with AstraZeneca and Oxford University scientists. And Covaxin is an indigenous product produced in India by Bharat Biotech in collaboration with ICMR. Okay, I've already explained. Covishield is a vector vaccine. Adenovirus. We are introducing the genetic material inside the adenovirus and we are injecting it. Covaxin is a completely killed vaccine. So efficacy, this is an older slide actually. Efficacy of Covishield is nearly 81% and efficacy of Covaxin is nearly 83 to 84%. Bharat Biotech hasn't yet published the efficacy and effectiveness results of Covaxin in general public, but still this efficacy results are circulating among our healthcare professionals. Covaxin is definitely there working. Okay, both of them are 2-dose vaccines. Next slide. Now coming to an important slide. What side effects does these two vaccines have? We are getting a lot of news that the patient died of this vaccine after getting vaccine. We have seen a lot of thrombus, blood clot related complications, something like that. Okay, so Covishield, mostly this is the side effect profile of Covishield: headache, fatigue, muscle or joint pain, fever, chills and nausea. This is the side effect profile that you get for any vaccine, even for kids. Even for kids, if you take a vaccine, baby will be having a mild fever, he'll be crying incessantly for the 1 or 2 next days, and then it will settle down. Okay, but some rare side effects that they are peculiar to Covishield. One is blood clot related side effects. It's very, very rare. 1 in 3 lakh population can get this blood clot related side effects. Okay, and there is something called as allergy. Anaphylaxis can happen 1 in 2 lakh related population. Okay, so anaphylaxis is a very rare thing, but it can happen with any substance that you intake. Some people can get anaphylaxis with any tablet, Oviron allergy, something like that. That is a mild form. Even it can progress to anaphylaxis. Some people get anaphylaxis even with food products, even with groundnuts, peanuts. So anaphylaxis is the universal thing for any product that is introduced into your body, but specific side effect for Covishield is blood clot related side effect. It is there 1 in 3 lakh population. Next slide. So this is an important slide. We have the risk of blood clots in AstraZeneca vaccine is 1 person in 3 lakh population. This is very, very less when compared with the risk of blood clots in persons taking birth control pill. Okay, so nearly 12% are affected for 10,000 population in birth control pill. For smokers, the risk of blood clots is very high. 18% are affected for 10,000 population. Whereas in COVID infection, even if you refuse this vaccines and you get COVID infection, the chances of blood clots in COVID infection is nearly 16.5%. We are seeing a lot of morbidity and mortality deaths that happens in COVID infection because of this blood clots. Okay, getting a COVID vaccination, COVID infection is far worse than getting a vaccine. Okay, so risk is highest with COVID infection. Regarding anaphylaxis, I have already told you. Okay, next slide. So side effect profile of Covaxin is milder when compared to Covishield. Sorry. So injection site pain will be there, fatigue, fever, headache, all sort of non-specific symptoms can happen with Covaxin. Covaxin doesn't have any serious clotting issues at all. Clotting issues is the main side effect of vector-based vaccine, which means Covishield and the newer vaccine that is being introduced to the Indian market, Sputnik, both these things carry this clotting issue problem, 1 in 3 lakh to 1 in 4 lakh population. Okay, so Covaxin is a safer vaccine, but it is a lesser potent vaccine compared with Covishield because it is killed vaccine. Okay, next slide. So another question. If I am taking vaccine, why I am not getting protected 100%? Why are people getting infection even after taking vaccination? This is an important question. We should answer this. Okay. There is 2 things. One is infection, one is disease. Okay, vaccine will kick on antibody response in your body. This antibodies will be there circulating in your body. When a COVID virus infects you, which means it enters into your body, it encounters the antibodies that is already produced by the vaccine. These antibodies will go on and fight with the antigen, which is COVID virus, and this fighting will cause fever, body pain, everything, which is similar to a COVID infection. Okay, so even after taking COVID vaccination, we can get infected, but the infection will be milder because this antibodies will prevent the antigen or COVID virus from reaching the lungs or intestine where they cause complication. That's why vaccinated people are getting lesser complication. In fact, very less complication than that of unvaccinated. Okay, so vaccines can't prevent infection at all. Second thing, human genetic makeup is different. One human is different from another. What we see is that our vaccine will work in the same way in 95 to 96% of human population. Some 3 to 4% of human population will always be there as outliers. The genetic makeup is like that. They will have weakened immune system. So chances of disease in them is high. Third thing is there is something called evolution. The virus is continuously evolving itself. It changes its structure. So chances are that in future, this evolution can cause the vaccine to tide over the resistance provided by this evolution can give this virus the ability to tide over the resistance provided by vaccine. It can happen in future, but it hasn't happened still now. And there is something called viral load, which is very, very significant to healthcare workers. Even with complete vaccination, because of the extensive amount of viral load they are getting exposed, they can get severe disease. They may get severe disease unless they are able to protect themselves properly. Okay, so these are the 4 points that explain why vaccines are not 100% protective. Please remember that even in future, we won't get any vaccine that gives you 100% protection. For 100% protection, you need something that will cover you like a net, preventing you from getting infection. It won't happen. At the most, what we can get is 90 to 95% protection. The Sputnik vaccine that is getting introduced in the next month from Russia, Russian scientists say that it is having 91% protection. We may get vaccine that can come close to 95 or 96% protection, but never 100% protection. Okay, next slide. Yeah. So, can COVID vaccine cause infection? We have seen a lot of persons saying this. My so-and-so person, some unknown person to me, he had gone for vaccination. Third day he died. He got infection immediately after vaccination. No, it doesn't work like that. Covishield is a vector-based vaccine. What we are introducing into humans is not COVID virus. It is adenovirus. At the most, it can cause an upper respiratory tract infection that can pass away like a common cold. It won't cause COVID infection at all. It will just kick on our immune system to produce antibodies. Covaxin is a killed vaccine. Virus is killed. Body will mount an antibody against it. Virus, it is not alive virus to mount an infection. Okay. Next slide. So moving on to the final part of the session. What are the myths regarding COVID infection? What are the myths regarding COVID vaccination? Next slide. This is important myth. Yeah, everyone knows that, but still people ask that if it is a viral infection, why doctors are prescribing me an antibiotic if I get an infection? There is no role of bacteria in it. No, if viral infection is there, it will just weaken our immune system. We can get bacterial infection as a secondary infection to the viral infection. So usually people with severe COVID infection, doctors were prescribing antibiotics for them to prevent the secondary bacterial infection. And azithromycin as an antibiotic, it is not used as an antibiotic in the treatment of COVID infection. It has some other role as it modulates our immune system. It is used like an immunomodulator in this, not as an antibiotic. Okay, so COVID-19 is caused by a virus, not by a bacteria. Next slide. This one. I can't wear mask because I read in WhatsApp somewhere that the prolonged wearing of mask will reduce my oxygen saturation, will cause carbon dioxide accumulation. No. As a doctor, I am wearing that complete N95 with the proper PPE kit for 7 to 8 years continuously without break. I'm not feeling any hypoxia, reduction in oxygen concentration, or any retention of carbon dioxide. No, our body has extreme capability to overcome that. Okay, you won't get hypoxia or you won't get carbon dioxide accumulation by wearing a mask. It won't happen. It is a myth. Next slide. Adding pepper, all those things. Yeah, it can give you symptom relief. All those home medications can give you symptom relief. It can boost your immunity it definitely boost your immunity, but you won't get COVID specific immunity with this. It doesn't prevent or doesn't cure COVID-19. Okay, next slide. This is an older myth, exposing yourself to sun or temperature higher than 25 degrees. People thought that it survived only in the colder countries, but yeah, India is the second worst affected country in the world now. This virus, it survives in every condition throughout the world. It seems like an all-rounder. Next slide. People use ultraviolet boxes, ultraviolet lamps to disinfect their materials. It is there available in Amazon, UV boxes. We can sterilize our purse, our pen, our headphones, our mobile. All we can keep all these things inside the UV box and we can sterilize it. But don't ever try to use those UV light on your skin. Okay, it is a cancerogenous. It can cause cancer when used for a long time. It is irritant. You will get blisters on your skin when you use UV light. Virus won't get killed. We will be getting secondary skin infection. So this is a myth. Next slide. Yeah, I told this. Coronavirus affect people of all age group, even kids. At present, in this second wave, kids below 18 years, they usually escape with mild infection. But the more number of deaths when compared to first wave happened in 20 to 35 year age group. That's how it has happened in this wave. We have seen a lot of death because this is the age group that think that we won't get affected by COVID because in first wave it hasn't happened. So this is a myth. It affects people of all age. Next slide. Yeah, if you are seeing a sanitizer kept in a supermarket, people have hesitation to touch on the top of sanitizer and take the rub from them. But after touching the sanitizer, you are just washing your hands. Your hands will get cleaned. So touching a communal bottle of alcohol-based sanitizer will not infect you. But I see in many places they have procured a separate stand for keeping the sanitizer. Even if the stand is not there, that is not an issue. You can just touch the sanitizer, take the rub and use it. Okay, next slide. Yeah, it can be used often. It doesn't clear off any organisms, useful organisms on your hand. No, a myth was percolating like that. It won't cause any secondary infection. It won't cause any antibiotic resistant. No, it doesn't happen. You can use as many times as possible. Hand sanitizers can be used. Next slide. This thing. Please don't wear gloves. Gloves are not safer. Using sanitizer is far better than wearing gloves, because even after wearing gloves, your hands are not the portal of entry of virus. No, if virus will get clinged onto your gloves, you will take your gloves inadvertently to near your face, virus can enter into it. You can be there normally without using hands, just using rubs frequently. Please don't use glove at all. Gloves is not protecting us. In fact, it is detrimental. Next slide. Now, myths regarding COVID vaccination. I have told something previously, yet I'll consolidate this. Next slide. Most people acquire COVID infection after vaccination. Definitely myth. I have explained this. Both the vaccines can cause COVID infection, but people can get infected at the vaccination center because all the essential prerequisite for the viral infection is there in the vaccination center. Okay, people are not maintaining social distancing. Excessive crowd is there because of the demand, and people doesn't know the importance of wearing proper face mask. So chances are that they can get infected at the vaccination center. Okay, and even they are given vaccine, but the vaccine takes time to produce antibodies. It takes nearly 14 to 28 days before producing normal antibodies. So when people get infected at the vaccination center, they are going to end up with COVID. And people would have got infected even before vaccination, the last few days before vaccination, but they would have been there asymptomatic, and immediately after vaccine, the symptoms can flare up. So people are not getting infection after vaccination due to vaccination. It doesn't happen like that. Next slide. Vaccine causes sudden death. Yeah, this is a very popular myth. This was responsible for the increased vaccine hesitancy now in Tamil Nadu because of a respectable actor Vivek's death. We don't know what happened. There is no such proven causation or association that vaccine causes sudden death. If we take his death as a cause, this is the first case that is being reported, because this vaccine causes anaphylaxis, which can happen in any people. I told you, even groundnut consumption can cause anaphylaxis. This vaccine causes blood clot formation. Just blood clot formation won't cause 100% 100% occlusion. Just like how body takes time to produce antibodies, same thing happened. Body takes time to produce blood clots. Okay, patient will be having symptoms slowly, not an immediate occlusion. So vaccine causes clotting related events in very rare cases. I have told you already, it is very, very rare compared to smoking, compared to use of birth control pill, very, very rare when compared to COVID vaccination. Okay, next slide. Sorry. So vaccination only causes mutant variant. This myth is there percolating for the last 4 or 5 days in the name of a virologist called as Luc Montagnier. He himself clarified that I haven't told anything like that. No, please understand the basic of evolution. Even without vaccine or not, the virus is going to mutate. It is its nature. How we human beings are getting evolved slowly. Virus lifetime is very short, so we are able to see that evolution in our in front of our eyes. So mutation is there going to happen continuously, even vaccines are there or not. Okay, so even without mutation, it will mutate. Not vaccination is not causing mutant variant. Okay, next slide. Vaccines has no effect on mutant variant. This is myth. As of now, the vaccines, 2 vaccines we are having, Covishield and Covaxin, it acts against all variants in India. Okay, so it will change in the future. A virus, a specific part of variant of virus will become intelligent, in crude term, intelligent. It will find some way to escape from the vaccine. Yeah, it can happen. Chances are there, but at present it is not the situation. Okay, at present all these virus present, variants present, or what to say, or the vaccines are effective against that variant. Okay, so even if the variants undergo mutation, scientists say that we can modify the vaccines in the future to act against this. We may need to take a booster dose in the future if something arises like that. Next slide. So vaccines are not meant for pregnant and lactating. Yeah, it's partly true. We don't have any studies. No studies have been conducted all these days on pregnant and lactating mothers. But now people say that lactating mothers, it is a bit safer because nothing is going to happen. The lactating mother is just like a normal mother. Even if this antibodies crosses, transfers from through breast milk to kid, nothing is going to happen. Kid is getting saved. But for pregnant mother, we don't have any studies till now. But pregnant mothers usually tolerate killed vaccine. So Covaxin is the one which we can give for pregnant mothers. We are using TT for pregnant mothers for a long time. So usually they will tolerate. It all depends on the risk benefit analysis. Government has yet to give a declaration on this. Next slide. And this is an important myth. I'm exercising regularly, doing yoga. I'm having natural immunity. I'm seeing this for so many days. Yeah, by doing your regular exercise, by doing your yoga, you are improving your immunity. There is no doubt in it. Yoga improves your immunity, but there is something called as general immunity and specific immunity. What you are doing is you are improving your general immunity. You are improving your chances. You are lessening your chances of getting non-communicable diseases like heart attack, diabetes, everything. Okay, that is accepted, and immune system is get boosted, but it doesn't play any role in improving your specific immunity. Specific immunity is obtained only by 2 ways: by previous infections and by vaccinations. Okay, even the immunity that is obtained by previous infection, it provides only short-lasting immunity. So even previous infection provides no problem. Even previous infection provides short-lasting immunity when compared with vaccination. Okay, next slide. So end of the session. Takeaway points. Everyone is susceptible for this COVID wave, including kids. People say that the COVID-3 wave will affect mainly kids. It's because most of the adults would have got vaccinated by that time. The virus will jump onto this susceptible. Okay. Second thing, identifying the first day of symptom is crucial. This is the most essential thing we are expecting from the patient. Okay. Identifying this first day helps us in modifying our treatment. Third thing, we have something called phases of COVID infection. Don't get false confidence that your symptoms are settled within 2 to 3 days. No, we have to wait till all the phases are over. Especially we have to tide over the second phase. Okay, so knowing about the phases of COVID infection helps in preventing complication. And all sorts of family functions and gatherings are super spreaders. We see more of infections coming from these places than jumping from patient to doctors and hospital setups. Only mask and hygienic measures can prevent infection. There is no substitute to them. Vaccines are not a substitute to infection. Vaccines can prevent only serious disease. Okay, you can't get a vaccine that will prevent infection. Please note that. That is not going to happen even in the future. Even with vaccine, you will get infection. You won't move on to a stage of severe disease with vaccines. Okay. Next slide. Yeah, thank you.
We thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We thank you. I thank Dr. A.R. Kadiravan for joining with us to give the details about COVID-19, the global pandemic. It is a needed message, sir, to us in the current situation. You have clearly elaborated the symptoms, causes, do's and don'ts related to COVID-19. You have given detailed ideas about the importance of taking vaccination, Covishield and co-vaccinations, and side effect profiles of them. You have given detailed speech to myths about taking vaccination. Thank you, sir. And we assure you that together we will remove the global enemy COVID-19 from us, sir. Once again, I would like to thank Dr. A.R. Kadiravan for taking out time from his busy schedule and enlightening us with the COVID-related issues. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll be happy to clear any doubts if you are having.
Sir, I have
Yes.
one doubt.
Yes, sir.
You said that vaccines will apply on the mutant also. Say, for example, there occurs the change in the DNA and even the spike gets changed.
Yeah.
Are you getting what I'm saying? Then is the vaccines will operate on that mutant variety?
Yes, sir. At present, what people say is, what scientists say is that even the mutant variant, the spike length has got changed. The earlier variant of COVID virus is a short spike. Now we are getting variant with lengthy spikes. Okay. So only a few amino acid alteration has happened within that. Still now, both the vaccines are acting against even with this variant, with this lengthened spike variant. But as you said, it may get altered in the future. But for now, the most common variant in India now is a double variant, B1167. Covaxin and Covishield is effective against these variants.
One more question, sir.
Yes.
The AIDS virus, we are using the multi-drug therapy.
Yeah.
Can we use the multi-drug therapy in this COVID virus?
Multi-drug therapy, sir, actually, treating a bacterial infection and treating a viral infection is entirely different, sir. Okay. Bacteria is a completely formed organism. When you give
AIDS
some
is the viral disease. AIDS is viral disease.
I'm just trying to explain why multi-drug therapy is not possible in this. Bacteria is a complete organism. When you give an antibiotic, it will go and kill the bacteria directly, your infection gets settled. But virus is not a complete organism. What virus does is that it enters into our body, it hijacks our machinery, our gene machinery. It will
DNA.
Yeah, our DNA, it will produce its proteins and then it will form copies. So if you are using a drug that should kill the virus, it will effectively kills our cells also. Okay, that is the problem with antivirals. We have a wide load of antibacterial, but we have only narrow spectrum of antivirals. Is because of this. Effectively, all the antivirals will kill our cells, thereby depleting our own immunity. That is the problem. Second thing, the present treatment we are using is multi-drug therapy only. We are using a combination of steroid, heparin, remdesivir in a few selected patients for a narrow therapeutic window, and tocilizumab is another drug which is still narrower, which still narrower therapeutic window than remdesivir. We are using a multi-drug therapy only. What we are aiming is we should get a single drug that can work on the virus just like what we are using with antibiotics. We don't know whether this is possible now.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Sir.
Nice information.
Sir.
Yes.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
So very informative session from your side, sir. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. So I would like to ask you one single question, sir.
Yes, sir.
So already it is we have a 2.0 wave actually, COVID wave. So within 3 to 5 months we are getting the 3.0. So how it is going to be estimated that it can be effective to the children? So what type of precautions we can expect such that we can protect our children such that to overcome this 3.0 wave, sir?
Sir, this for any viral infection, this is the norm, sir. Usually, the last pandemic Spanish flu, it happened in 5 different waves. First wave will be mild, second wave will be the worst hit, and third, fourth, and fifth we will be settling down slowly. Why COVID 3.0? Why government is telling that it will be affecting the kids mainly means most of the adults would have been vaccinated by the time. It's government's what you say expectation. People, administrative side thinks that we would have vaccinated everyone in the adult age group, and the virus will normally jump into kid. Then we doesn't have any host in the adult age group. Okay, so what are the things from the government side is that we are planning to give vaccines for the kids now in the age group of 5 to 18. The Covaxin, our Indian indigenous vaccine, they have planned to start trials on the kids. The procedure is going on. That is from administrative side. Okay, if trials are completed, probably we will be getting vaccine for the kids in another 3 to 4 months time. We should vaccinate our kid. One thing. Second thing, the same precautions that we use for our adults, the same physical distancing, monitoring the symptoms, everything is essential for the kids. The virus won't present in a different way in the kid. Kid immune system is a bit weaker than that of immune system, so chances of severe disease is higher in the kids. But when we are able to maintain the same precautionary measures, I think we can overcome the 3.0 or the subsequent waves also.
Sir, another question asked by Ranu Nayak, sir. The question is, if the person was COVID positive earlier, then after how many days the person can take the vaccination?
Yeah. So there are two things in this. One is what we have followed earlier days and what is the government protocol now. Okay. Earlier days, what we used to tell is that when a person gets positive, he would be in the monitoring phase for at least 14 days, 2 weeks. And after 2 weeks, we need a period of 4 weeks to vaccination. So from the date of positivity, 6th week, we should get vaccinated. This is the earlier guidance before this month. What government has told now is that we have to wait for 3 months, 12 weeks from the point of positivity, because one is because of infection itself, the person is getting some amount of immunity, which is going to stay with them for the next 2 to 3 months. And second thing, we need to vaccinate a large proportion of population. Yeah, we are in a critical situation now. We have to vaccinate at least first dose for everyone. So by guidelines, we have to wait for 3 months. By trials, what the trials are conducted earlier, 6 weeks is there. After 6 weeks from positivity, we can take a vaccine.
Thank you, sir. The next question is asked by Ilango Tribili 2007. Okay. If a person has symptoms of COVID-19 and not tested, is it advisable for him to get vaccinated?
Which means that he doesn't know whether he had COVID or not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Very difficult question to answer because these are not specific symptoms. It's just a cluster of non-specific symptoms. We don't know how to answer this question. See, there won't be any complication if you take vaccine after a COVID infection. I will assure you that, because a COVID infection is going to produce immunity in your body. If you are vaccinated, the same immunity is going to get boosted. It is not due to complications that the government or trials are telling that we should delay the vaccination. There is no use because already you are having immunity. Why are you going to get vaccinated? That is the point. So no problem will happen for the person if he had any asymptomatic or non-tested COVID infection. No, nothing. No problem will happen for him.
Thank you, sir. The next question is asked by Vijay Lakshmi Saukar. If the patient is diabetic since 20 years, she had DJ stenting in right side kidney and even cardiac stenting too. Is she capable to go for vaccination?
Definitely. See, the only contraindication also not there. We have to look at the drugs the patient is taking. Okay. What guideline says is that only for patient on blood thinners means drugs like heparin, warfarin, all these drugs, you should check with them whether their prothrombin time, a blood test, we should do a blood test for them, and whether you should see whether the values are normal in them. If the values are normal, they are asked to take vaccines. Okay. If the values are abnormal, you have to wait till the values become normal and then take vaccine. There is no absolute contraindication for this vaccination because there is something called as risk benefit analysis. Okay. The chances of blood clotting is there, very, very rare with the vaccination. Okay. But when you get COVID vaccination, the chances of recovery for say diabetic with multiple complication is very, very poor. I have to say this. Compared to a normal person, the chances of prognosis for them is very grim. So applying risk benefit analysis, it is best to go for them to vaccination than to get a disease and get affected by that. Okay, there is no contraindication for this vaccines. We have to be careful when we are taking warfarin, heparin and other blood thinners. You have to visit your doctor. You have to check your blood test, PT-INR values, and if they are normal, you can take the vaccine.
Thank you, sir. The next question is asked by Siddhartha Shankar Dev. The question is, one friend of mine got positive after 3 days of vaccination. What might be the reason?
Yeah, I explained this, madam. He would have got infection either before vaccination, in the last week before vaccination. Okay, the virus, if it enters on our body, it has something called as incubation period. It won't show any symptom at all for 2 days to 2 weeks. Okay, so chances are that he would have got infected before the week of vaccination. Chances are that he would have got infected at the vaccination center. The second thing, chances is very, very high because no proper safety measures are being followed at the vaccination center. We have to be careful. Our vaccines, one is killed vaccine, one is vector based vaccine. Both of them are not capable of mounting a infection. Both of them are not capable of causing a what you say, COVID disease. Okay.
Sir, the next question is asked by Ganesh KR. Initially, the interval between dose 1 and 2 is 1, and now it is increased. How it is determined? What about those who vaccinated following the previous interval?
One thing is that we have two different vaccines now, Covaxin and Covishield. For Covaxin, the government says that the interval is same 1 month, 4 weeks. You haven't changed it. For Covishield, what is the point is that it is a vector based vaccine. Continuous trials are going on in various countries. Okay, European countries as well as American country. Initially in UK, the vaccine, the dose between first dose and interval between first dose and second dose is kept as 12 weeks. In Canada, it was kept as 16 weeks. Okay, it was how it was started initially, and they have assessed the antibody titer after leaving this particular time. Okay, so they found that anything more than 6 to 10 weeks is okay. Anything more than 6 to 10 weeks, the first dose itself is giving enough protection. Okay, this is the what you say, this is the end result from the trials. Another thing is that, yeah, we are in a vaccine crunch situation. We have to accept that. Okay, our population is so high. For vaccinating 70% of 130 crore population, which is nearly 100 crore, we are still vaccinated only, 3% of the population, 3 crore people. So both the factors are there. One is vaccine crunch, and second thing is for Covishield, 1 dose of vaccine is there. It is effectively protecting. Trials say that 75 to 80% of protection is there even after 1 dose of vaccine. They are not lying in that because those trials are from abroad. They have tried vaccines at different time intervals and they have come to the conclusion.
Thank you, sir. The next question is asked by Jnana Prakasam. My mother taking tablets after got stroke for last 5 years. Can she go for vaccination?
What tablet, madam? I didn't hear you. What tablet?
My mother taking tablets after got stroke for last 5 years.
Okay. Mostly stroke patients will be taking tablets for BP, hypertension, antiplatelet.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
She is not having any BP or sugar. She is taking a tablet like Lioresal, Pacitane, Rosuvastatin. That's all, sir.
Rosuvastatin is for cholesterol. Pacitane, whether she is having stroke alone or stroke with Parkinsonism, sir?
Stroke now also the right hand is not working, functioning properly.
Yeah.
Otherwise, okay, sir. No issues.
There is no absolute contraindication even if they are on these drugs, sir. The drugs I have mentioned earlier is the contraindication. If patient is on some immunosuppressant, then it is contraindicated. But stroke patients won't be taking any immunosuppressant drug. Don't worry. They can go in for vaccination. Please take adequate care in the vaccination center. I am stressing it again and again.
What kind of remedies we have to? What kind of care we have to take after vaccine, sir?
Sir, please choose a center that is less crowded. That is difficult to find, but that is the norm. Most of the people are getting infected in a crowded vaccination center only.
Okay, sir.
If you are living in a apartment complex, then please try
sir,
to.
Here no issues, sir. We are from village side, and here no crowd.
Then no problem, sir. No problem. I'm talking about cities. Try to bring the vaccination team to your apartment complex and get vaccinated here itself instead of you going to hospitals. All those things will help.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question is asked by Rajita. A person with fits can take vaccination?
Person
with fits.
Kids.
Fits.
Yeah. There is no problem, madam. Even if they are on anti-epileptic drugs for a long time, there is no contraindication for vaccination. They can take both of the vaccines. They can take.
Thank you, sir. The last question asked by Ramji Prasad Gupta. That is, one of my friend having infection from paracetamol. Should he go for vaccination?
Infection from paracetamol? No, paracetamol won't cause infection. Whether it is allergy, what is meant as allergy?
He has just written infection from paracetamol.
No, madam. Infection.
Yes, sir. Having allergy from paracetamol. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Sir, what guideline says is that most of the people will have allergy to one thing or other. Okay, we will be having allergy to our food material, mild tablets, something like that. Those are not contraindications for vaccination. Okay, only when they had any allergy, severe allergic reaction to previous vaccines. Okay. Or any life-threatening allergic reaction, then they should be careful while taking vaccines. And even for them, Covaxin is safest. Covaxin is not causing any severe allergic reactions. Okay, so mild allergies are not contraindications.
So he should prefer Covaxin or?
Sir, excuse me.
He should go for Covaxin.
Yeah, it is safer compared to both the vaccine. It is safer.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, already you have answered the questions, but these two people is asking the same question again. The question is, pregnant lady can take vaccination or not? Can a lactic mother can take a vaccination or not?
Yeah, lactating mother can take vaccination. There is no issues in that. Even the antibodies crosses via breast milk to the kid, it is not going to cause any problem. But regarding pregnant mother, different governments are taking different stands. Still, our government is in the in the process of approving killed vaccine for a pregnant mother. As of now, pregnant mothers are not advised to take vaccine, but it will change in the future, probably in 1 or 2 months, because in this second wave, we had seen lot of pregnant mothers died because of COVID. Okay, so again, it's a risk-benefit analysis only. Benefit outweighs risk means government will go for that. That's how science works. Okay, even it has minor risk, we can overrule the risk, we can take the benefit in the face value. Okay, so for pregnant mothers, probably in 1 or 2 months, our government of India will approve Covaxin to be taken for pregnant mothers. This is my assumption. They are in the process.
Sir, once again, I thank you wholeheartedly, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm so sorry, sir. Now a person posted a question. The question posted by Revati R. The question is, can a person taking treatment for fertility problems are eligible for vaccination?
Yes, no, absolutely yes. There is no contraindication for them. Your fertility problem, you'll be taking some hormonal tablets. There is no contraindication for a person on hormonal tablet to take vaccination. And even then, person on hormonal tablet can have a rare complication of blood clot. So please go for Covaxin. It is safer compared to Covishield. Of these two vaccines, Covaxin is safer.
Sir, one more question. Yes. Now the Covaxin is not available. Actually, one person got first dose of Covax.
Yeah.
The deadline for second dose is 31st May. Suppose the person misses the second dose, what happened, or what we have to do?
Sir, at present it is not advisable to switch over the vaccine, sir. There are various trials are going on. First dose Covaxin, second dose Covaxin. Yeah, scientists are experimenting that, but we haven't got any concrete results in that. We have to wait for the second dose. But nothing will happen because our immunity won't get cut off exactly on the same day. Okay, it doesn't happen like that. You will get a slow waning of immunity after the prescribed period. Say if after 1 month, if you are not getting your second dose, your protection portion will fall from somewhere around 70 to 65, 60, somewhat like that. So you can supplement with your booster dose later. Nothing will happen.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you, sir. This is the last question. So sorry, sir, for that. The question is asked by Sumit Chauhan. When anyone will be positive by COVID-19 and he lost his taste, and after 24 days he was not recovered from it, so how much time it will take to recover his taste properly?
Sir, it depends on person to person, madam. That is what I am telling. Okay, it is not a single disease causing, single spectrum in the entire humans. Okay, where we are picking up the patient is important. Most of the patient, if picked up in the first few days of the second stage, early pulmonary phase, the critical stage, usually patients are recovering. Okay, if we move beyond the second stage, if you are entered into third stage, which is severe lung disease, severe oxygen dependency, the patients end up in the ventilator support. Okay, so after that it is individual's immune system, one thing, and the presence of comorbid condition, another thing, that is determining the outcome of the patient. Okay, patients with multiple comorbid conditions and very severe lung disease are usually succumbing. Patient with moderate lung disease with one or two comorbid conditions are able to fight it out, provided they are not getting any secondary infections. Okay, if secondary infections are there, they are also succumbing. So it all depends on the individual. We can't say whether the patient can recover within this short period of time. We don't have any proper scientific evidence for that. Think of our legendary singer SPB sir. He was there in the hospital for more than 3 to 4 weeks. Every treatment was tried on him, but still his immune system and his comorbids, it has led to his sad demise. So we can't say concretely that this is the maximum days up to which COVID infection can cause complication, because it is not the virus that is causing complication. I have explained it. Because virus, it comes inside, it kicks our immune system, it goes out, it dies. Our immune system is the one that is going on in a vicious cycle. It is causing a lot of complications. So it depends from person to person, genetic makeup, everything comes into play in that.
Thank you, sir. The next question asked by Kumar Goswami. Do flies, mosquitoes, or other insects carry or transmit the virus?
No, man, no. This virus is it was there originally in the bats. It jumped from bat to pangolin, from pangolin to humans. All these vectors, what you are told are vectors, houseflies, mosquitoes, all these won't carry. This virus can't survive in them. Okay, so this virus particle, if we spit it out, it will just settle down in the floor and it will die. Very small particle will get suspended, but it won't be carried by vectors. Mosquitoes and housefly doesn't carry this.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, one more question.
Yes, sir.
The last question. Sir, whether this is true or not, I don't know. I heard in the last 1 week back in the paper, I have seen that article. These vaccines can be used for only 2 years. After 2 years, whoever taken the vaccine, definitely they will die.
Yeah, that's what Luc Montagnier, a scientist, has told this, but it is fake news. See, vaccine doesn't work that way. What he is telling is that vaccines are creating mutant variants. No, it doesn't happen like that. Even without vaccine, mutation is there happening in the wild. It is with this mutation only that vaccine has jumped from bats to humans. Okay. it doesn't work like that. What he is speaking is that there is something called as antibody dependent enhancement. He's speaking about that. Antibody dependent enhancement means those persons who are having the antibodies, they will have more severe disease when exposed against to COVID. Okay, this is the complication that is happening with the dengue virus. That's why we are not able to produce a vaccine for dengue virus all these days. Dengue was there with us for nearly 2 to 3 centuries, more than that. But still now we are not able to derive vaccine for that because of this. Because when we vaccinate someone, he produces antibodies. Person with antibodies will react differently when he exposed to another dengue virus. Okay, but this ADE, antibody dependent enhancement, is not seen in COVID virus now. No, it is not a property of COVID virus. If it is so, we will be seeing a lot of complications within this short period, because all Western countries have started vaccinated some 8 months back.
Yes.
So it's fake.
Sir, is it a genetically modified virus?
Sir, there are two theories, sir. One is it has jumped from nature, it has jumped from a lab. Okay, we don't have any evidence for both of this. Okay, so it may be genetically modified. I'm saying maybe. I'm not surely saying that it should be, because even natural infection can be this severe. Please accept that. Nature is not there to protect us. Nature doesn't work that way. We have to survey out. We have to survey out in nature. That's how all our ancestors have crossed. We have far worse infections than this in past. Smallpox is a disease that was traveling with us for 2000 years. It was far deadly than this. Cholera, we had 6 to 7 pandemics of cholera. Each pandemic killed nearly 3 to 4 lakh people. It will settle down. Again, it will start as a pandemic for 300 years. We had plague in 14th or 15th century where it killed nearly 3 out of 10 people in England. People will just walk, they will fall down and die. Okay. So what people assume is that if a virus is this cruel, that must have originated from laboratory. No, it doesn't work like that. Even natural virus can be this cruel. Just mutating, that's all. And another part is that, yeah, chances are there that there are some indicators in this that points to lab originated virus, but for sure we don't know what had happened. Both are conspiracies.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Any more questions, sir?
Nice session.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I want to ask one question.
Yeah.
Sir, what about airborne? Some sources are saying that it is airborne now. It can travel from more than 6 feet also. So what is the possibility, sir?
Yeah, that airborne statement should be read in full, sir. What is airborne in this is that when we cough or sneeze, these particles will form a bigger droplet. It will settle down. Okay. We will form smaller droplets also while we cough or sneeze. These smaller droplets in closed room with AC on, this will just get suspended in the air. That's what they mean by airborne. This airborne transmission won't happen in the open air. Okay.
Means for getting airborne, the infected person has to be in the close proximity with the person.
Not close proximity. What I'm saying is that if some positive patient there in the positive person are there in the closed AC room, he coughed or sneezed and went off, that particles will be there suspended in that even after some 1 or 2 hours. You must be cautious before going into the room. That's why I say closed room is a highly risky environment in this. And this smaller air droplet can travel a larger distance even in an open community hall, say a marriage hall, if it is completely AC without any cross ventilation. That's what they mean by airborne. Okay, it is not airborne as such. It can travel a large distance in open air. No, it won't travel. Okay. You can be walking with a COVID positive patient in an open park. If he sneezes or coughs, it will settle down. If you are wearing a mask, you won't get that. It is not airborne like that.
Okay. Thank you, sir, for this. One more question, sir.
Yeah.
So what about, sir, wearing 2 masks? Does it help in containing the virus in the air also?
What, sir?
So persons are saying that, doctors are saying that we should wear 2 masks while going in the crowded area.
Yeah. So, see, the filtration coefficient is the important, sir, because usually the N95 mask is the best one. Yeah, there is no doubt about that, because it filters nearly 95% of particles that can transfer. That is why it's called the N95. We have something called as the N90 mask. We have something called as the N99 mask, which we are using in industries. N95 mask is the best mask, but N95 mask is difficult for everyone to wear. Okay, people are not used to a normal mask. You can't expect them to wear N95 mask. What they will do is they will just pull it off when they feel breathless. They will just pull it off. The purpose of mask is beaten. So for that situation, what we are saying is that in crowded places, make sure that you are wearing 2 masks that can close your nose and mouth. Okay, that's an arbitrary what is it? Arbitrary decision. That's all. There is no proof. Yeah.
It means single N95 can also work in the same proportion.
Single N95 is the best mask to wear, provided you know how to wear it. You should know when to dispose it. You can't wear an N95 more than 2 or 3 days. You can't wear an N95 with wetness inside the mask. You should be sure about all those things. If you are sure about those things, N95 is the best mask.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Participants, any more questions?
Sir, I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, when we take the vaccination dose, no, sir, the side effects are there. How are those side effects? I mean, what is the reason for the side effects? And there's a variation from person to person. Like some people get fever, some people don't.
Side effects, what is the minor side effects? What usually happens is that our body immune system are reacting to that virus, killed virus that is coming inside. Okay. So what will happen when you get a COVID infection? You will be getting fever, body pain, loose stools, nausea, vomiting. Same thing has happened with the vaccination. You are giving a minute dose of the same virus, even if it is killed. Our body thinks that it is a live virus. It will mount the same immune response against that virus. In that process, it produces antibodies. So it is a minor COVID infection on the view, in the view of our immune system. Okay. So that's why we get side effects. And regarding that blood clot related side effects, that is a side effect of vector based vaccines group as a whole. What people say is that this vector based vaccine produces antibodies to platelet 4, a factor called as platelet factor 4. Because of this, we are getting a clot inside our body. Okay, they are trying to reduce that component alone. That blood clot related side effects is specific only to the vector based vaccine. Sputnik and Covishield. For Covaxin, we will get a routine side effect. For Covishield, in most of the people, this routine side effects will happen because our body thinks that it is a normal virus which is entering into our body.
The doctor, I want to ask. There's, I have been hearing some people saying if you are taking vaccine and you are not getting any side effects, probably the vaccine has not been administered correctly, or you are getting just the water, distilled water being inserted into you. Can you address this myth?
Yeah. Conspiracy says no eyes and ears. It will just spread like wildfire. No, it doesn't work like that. No, it is not essential for every immune system to form the same side effect profile against the virus or against the vaccine. Even see the COVID infection, we see a lot of patients having no symptom at all, even though they are COVID positive, even though they are swab positive. How it can be explained then? The same virus is entering into every body, but some are getting symptoms and some are getting mild symptoms. Some are not getting any symptoms at all. The same thing happens with vaccine. No, please, if you are having any doubt like that, please check the antibody values after getting a vaccination, after 1 month of getting a vaccination. Okay, your antibody titer will be there. You can double check with the antibody titer.
I understand, doctor. It's just that there were rumors going on. I just wanted to address it.
People fear is getting in the form of rumors. No problem.
Sir,
tell me, sir.
Sir, one more question, sir. Sir, in first wave, there were 2 strains which were being prevailing in the India, L strain and S strain, in the first wave when we conceived the COVID-19.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between that second wave and first wave in India? What is the mutation which is causing this death?
Yeah, second wave, the virus has become intelligent. That's what we should say. Okay, the virus know how to evade our normal immune response. The virus acts very quickly. In fact, in the first wave, we would be seeing complications in patients only after some 8 to 9 days. Okay, that pulmonary phase, what I mentioned, the lung phase will happen only after 9 days. What we are seeing in the second wave is that the pulmonary phase happens within 6 days, 6 to 7 days it has started. So patients are rapidly worsening in the second wave because of increased infectivity of virus. One thing is infectivity. The virus know how to jump from person to person very rapidly. And another thing is increased pathogenicity. The virus know how to evade our immune response. It has improvised itself a lot. Especially the double mutant variant has improvised itself a lot. It evolved itself a lot.
Okay, sir. So one more thing. So as we know that virus are, we can say that it is a bit prone to temperature and all. As we see, as we can see, our India is a very bit hotter than other countries as compared to other countries. So why the effect of virus is more in India as compared to other countries in the world?
Sir, actually, we had the same theory in the earlier days when all the Western countries are getting affected and when India is not affected. Even I also, what to say, I am also speaking about this theory. Ours being a hot country, we won't get affected. But later it got changed. India is a perfect nidus for that virus to evolve. Okay, so we are extremely crowded country. One thing.
Yes.
So virus have lot of host to spread. Okay, one thing. Second thing is that how mutation will happen. You just think that when you have lot of ways to spread, one way will get mutated. Okay, so increased spread will lead to increased mutation. This is the common concept. Why we need to vaccinate everyone? To cut off spread. If you cut off spread, mutation will come down slowly. If you can't cut off spread, mutation is about to happen. It will change its form. Probably in one form or other, it would have got adapted to the temperature of this country. This virus is a killer. Seriously, it is able to survive in 13 degree, 5 degree of US, and it's able to survive in 50 degree of Arab countries in India. We are getting variants which is evolving so fast.
Yes, so that's what my that was my point. In it was spreading. Yeah, it was spreading in the same way as in Arab also, and same way as in Tundra also, sir.
Yeah. So because of that, we have a lot of host. So virus has an effective nidus to mutate and evolve in all directions.
Sir, can there be anything to cut off the protein strain of the virus in near future as a permanent solution for this?
I don't get you, sir.
Sir, can there be any medicine to cut off the protein strain or so to break the protein strain in the near future?
That's what the production of antiviral is very difficult, sir. We have a load of antibiotics all these years, but a very handful of antivirals, because for antiviral to act, it has to act on our cell. Our cell is producing the essential proteins for the virus. So it should destroy our cell. It will have a lot of side effects. That's where problem comes. Okay, we are hoping for such an antiviral where that antiviral drug can act even before virus can attach on the surface of the cell. Science is in early days. We are hoping for that to happen.
Okay, sir. Thanks.
Interferon, they are not playing role. Interferon, are they playing role?
Yes, sir. Interferon is a trial drug only, sir. We even interferon, convalescent plasma, all those things we have tried, but there is no proven benefit for all these things. Only remdesivir has some benefit. Even remdesivir, it acts only in a narrow therapeutic window of infection. It is not useful for all patients. The hype created by on both sides, from administrative side, from media side, is totally false. Remdesivir is not acting as a whole. It is useful only for a select set of patients. The role of interferon is far less than that of remdesivir. We have tried it, but no, we couldn't save more number of patients. Risk benefit analysis is very poor for them.
Yeah, earlier it was saying that the plasma transfers, that will be the therapy, but nowadays they are opposing. So what
sir, we are trying various modalities, sir. If the modalities doesn't seem to work, we are saying it openly that this is not working, we should rule it out. So science is growing like that in every field.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sir, can plasma therapy can be applicable to children, sir, if it gets affected?
We don't know, sir. We don't know the answer for this question because still now children are not getting affected bad. What happens mostly is that usually it happens like an upper respiratory tract infection that persists for 2 to 3 days and it's getting settled down. We are not even we have not thought of a stage like that where child has gone bad and we should treat it. It hasn't happened till now, but yeah, there is no wrong in trying that. If we have to try that in kids, we will do that if it is needed. We don't know yet.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, participants. I think we have just clarified so many doubts. I think we can end up the session. I will call upon Vanilla Madam, the co-coordinator of this program, to give the vote of thanks to Dr. Kadiravan.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining with us, sir. Thank you so much. It was very informative and interactive session, sir. We are very happy, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
You all get vaccinated and you will vaccinate all your kith and kin. Please, that is the only solution in front of us.
Okay,
We will do it, sir. We'll do it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Sure,
Thank you.
sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take it. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Lord, sir. It was very informative.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Dear participants, the valedictory section will start at 4:30 p.m. today.
Participants, stay with us for the validatory function. This is the most important thing.